Welcome to Dear Diaries, sharing heaven one experience at a time. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, or our website, www.deardiaries.co. I'm your host, Roserbie Theoc, and welcome to Dear Diaries. Hello, welcome to Dear Diaries. My name is Roserbie. Today, I am going to share a story that Holy Spirit wanted me to share. And I recorded it before, but I was editing it and I felt like I could do a better job with telling the story. So at the time that God wanted me to record this, I didn't know why. Obviously, because he wants someone to hear this story. He wanted someone to hear this, right? So I didn't know why, but it was truly an amazing experience. So I'll begin. So it was maybe 2012, I want to say, where I was a part of this MLM business. And I joined the MLM business, and it was a great company. I love that it was a Christian-based company. They boldly spoke about the Lord. They boldly prayed and prophesied during these conferences. So it wouldn't be a weird thing if you went somewhere and someone walked to you and say, "Hey, can I pray for you? Hey, I heard the Lord say this for you?" And just be a wonderful like church business kind of thing. But it wasn't a church, and they didn't sell anything churchy. It was health products. So, but they acknowledged God in their business. They gave him the glory for their success. And I love that. So in this particular time, I had this situation I didn't know of, but God, who is faithful, just, and good, and detail oriented, he cares about everything. You'll find out about him. Is that every time that I thought about going out to work the business, there was just something pulling me back from doing it. And I would kind of be afraid, but it wasn't loud enough for me to be able to say, okay, that's fear. It was just something pulling me back, and I just never could go do what it is that I was supposed to do to work this business. And even before I joined the business, I felt led to join it. And so I'm like, I felt frustrated. There's this chasm between what I feel I know I could do in this business and where I was. And one day I was just sitting in my mom's living room, just, in my thoughts, picking my nails, sitting there. And then I heard the Lord call my name, and he said, "Roserbie." And I'm like, "Yes, Father." And he said, "You're afraid of white people." And I think that was the thing. Now I remember. One of the reasons why I didn't want to record this, because it's a sensitive subject, right? And so, but I'm obedient anyway. It doesn't matter, because the truth will set us free. And that is the Yeshua. He will set us free. And so, and I'm like, huh? And he's like, "Yeah, you're afraid and you're intimidated by white people." And I'm like, but I knew it was kind of true, but it wasn't like, as I said, like, there's certain things that are there in the background, but it's not so vivid in the front where you can be like, "Oh yeah, that's true." Because I had white friends, I performed in front of white people, I did all these things. But what I always noticed about myself is I sang at a prestigious Chinese restaurant in Gulfstream, and millionaires would be, passing by in front of me all the time. They would come tip me, come have conversations with me. But what I noticed, and this is not only then, I noticed this from even way back when I was younger, that whenever they spoke to me, whenever a white person spoke to me, my eyes would kind of be down a little bit. And then I would eat up my words. I wouldn't project and speak out. There was just something there, and an underlining feeling of being inferior. And it had nothing to do with them, how I was being treated. It was just something there in me. And And I would notice it. But as I said, it wasn't loud, it wasn't out there. And then the fact that I was speaking or anything, it didn't mean that much to me. But it started to affect me, my ability to go out and work. And you may not know it, but in the Bible, one of the things that God considers a sin is to be fearful, is to fear. And I didn't know that. So if you look it up, God considers that to be a sin. And I'm guessing, I didn't hear this from God, but I'm guessing that when you allow, first of all, you're not supposed to fear anyone, fear man, but you should fear God, reverence him, and put him above all. But when you are afraid, you're unable to be the fullness, the greatness that God has placed you in the earth to be. If you're afraid to speak and your words is what's going to save someone, that fear is hindering you from being what God needed. And I refuse to live a life where God is not getting his return on his investment in me. So he told me then, call your pastor. So I called my pastor, told him, hey, this is what I heard the Lord said. He said, I understand. And he was a Black man, but he was in California in his time. He was in stocks and commodity, and he was the only Black man in his company working, doing that. And he had an inferiority complex when he started working. But then I don't know, I don't remember his story. I don't remember what he told me, but there was something that had to break off of him too, in order for him to begin to progress and be successful in his business. In his work, where he was killing it. And so I spoke to him. He explained to me his story and everything, but I didn't feel that great. It didn't really help me in the way that I believe. But I can't say, because the fact that God told me to call him mean that there was a seed planted. Something was done, whether I understood it or not. So in my MLM business, the Lord told me, because the company would have conferences. And so he told me, and I had a team. So even though I was afraid, I had a good going Black girls team going on, right? So, this is a side note that I noticed in my life with how the Lord positions me. It didn't matter wherever I went. For some reason, God's reason, and he knows why, I would always find myself, my sisters and I, we would always find ourselves very close to the leaders. We found our way, and someone else, a prophetic person, explained that to us later on in life. But I noticed that in this MLL company, which had thousands and thousands of people, my direct contact was the daughter of the CEO of the company. And so I had access to the CEO, which other people didn't have, meetings that other people didn't have, parties that other people didn't have. And that simply is because that's just something that Adonai would do with me and my sisters and I. It didn't matter where we were, what leader we were. God just gave us that access. So this had caused me to be able to go to this party. And I saw this party, right? Well, before I talk about the party, I'll tell you what God told me. So he told me, go to this conference. Don't tell your team about it, because I want you to go there for a different reason. I had no idea, because from the time God had told me that I was afraid of white people, and the time he instructed me to go to the conference, they were not together. So it's not like I could put it together. Oh, you're, dealing with this. No, it was, at a whole nother time. And then so I just heard the instructions. I did what he said. He told me, don't even tell your leader that you're coming. Tell no one you're going. And so I did what the Lord said. I sat there and I listened. He said, I want you to go and I want you to listen. There's something that I have there for you. And so I thought it had something to do with the conference, what it was happening at the conference. It's thundering. So I sat there and I listened intently. and I looked intently to hear. And then, as I said, these conferences bring thousands and thousands of people. It's so exciting. So I was trying not to get motivated and influenced by the energy that was there. I wanted to hear what God said. Because in order for me to go, I had to pay a ticket, get a plane. Pay for the ticket for the conference, catch a plane, and travel. So I was determined to get what it was God told me that I'm supposed to get there. So as I was there, the Lord told me, I need you to go speak to this person. Now, this person he wanted me to speak to was my leader's brother. And I said, Lord, how am I going to find him amongst these thousands of people? By the time this thing is done, I don't know where he's going to be. I'm not going to be able to find him. It's like, I don't know how this is going to happen. And so conference was over and I was getting up to leave to go to my hotel room. And I heard the Lord tell me, sit down and wait. So I sat and waited and waited and waited. So I waited about an hour. And then I was like, you know what? It's the place started, the auditorium started clearing out, the theater started clearing out. And so I got up and getting my stuff and I'm like, I'm leaving. So I'm getting up. I got up, grabbed my things, and I walked outside. And I pushed those double doors open. Right down at the end of the staircase was the guy that the Lord wanted me to speak to. My mind was blown. My mind was blown. And, God who knows all things, he didn't tell me to get up and go, but he knew at this time she's going to get frustrated and she's just going to get up and go. And there he was, right there, like waiting for me. And I said, God, you are something else. You are amazing. And so I went down to him, but I didn't know how I'm going to have this conversation. He said, I need you to tell him that you're afraid of white people. And I'm like, oh my God, really? Really? That's what you're going to have me tell him? So I walked down and I went up to him. As I said, this company it was not a thing if you went up to someone and say, hey, this is what I heard the Lord say, for me to tell you. So I walked up to him. He knew who I was. I said, I couldn't even say it. I really couldn't say it. I said, the Lord wanted me to speak to you about something. And he's like, yeah, well, what is it? And so I said, the Lord wants me to tell you that I'm afraid of, and I just rubbed his skin and I said, this color. So he goes, oh, okay. And he's like, don't feel bad about it, because he said, God will cause you or have asked you to do things sometimes you don't understand, that seems weird to you. And, and then he began to tell me a story about himself. Now, he was a gay man at the time. And he told me that God told him that he's going to marry a woman. And he said, God, I'm gay, right? And God was like, yeah, I know. And he's like, yeah, so I don't see me marrying a woman in this lifetime. And then God said, you're going to marry a woman. And then he was like, okay, God, but I know I'm gay. So then, the Lord came to him again and he said, do you trust me? And he's like, yes, Lord, I trust you. He's like, okay, I want you to do something for me and it's going to be beneficial to you, but I want you to do it. Can you do it? And he's like, yeah, I can do it. So the Lord said to him, I don't want you to put on deodorant and I don't want you to shave anymore. And he was like, what? What do you mean you don't want me to put on deodorant? You want me to stink around people? I'm the son of the CEO of this company. I'm around thousands of people doing speeches. You don't want me to wear deodorant and you don't want me to shave? I'm going to look like a bum. And God said to him, well, didn't you say that you would do what I ask you, that you trust me? And he's like, yeah, I did. And then he said, okay, I'll do it. So he told me that he did it. And what God wanted it to teach him is how he judged people from their appearance and, and judged them probably wrongfully. And so God wanted to teach him that lesson. And so he was telling me, it's not weird that God would ask you to do this. This is what he had me do. And so, but while I'm having this difficult conversation, there's this other woman, this white woman standing close by. I knew her. She was a part of his team. And I was like a little irritated because I'm like, I'm first of all, God has me saying this having this very uncomfortable conversation with this guy. And I'm saying something that I don't need people knowing about me. And she refused to go. She refused to go. She was so close next to us. She can hear everything. If I whispered, she could hear it. And I was irritated. And so I said to him again after he told me his story, I said, yeah, God told me to tell you that I feel inferior to white people. I'm afraid of them and this and that. And then I heard this loud, oh, and I turned to look at her and I'm like, this lady is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And she's like, oh, and then she comes nearer, closer. And she says, that's why I couldn't sit down. And so now we're looking at her and she's like, I wanted to go sit down because, she was a very heavy set woman. And so she had difficulty walking and her legs was hurting her really, really bad. She said the Lord refused to let her sit down. He said, no, you have to stay right here. And she's like, but they're talking and I need to go sit down because my leg hurt. He's like, no, you need to stay here and you need to stand right here. And she was like, it wasn't until you confessed with your mouth, because remember, the first time I said it, I didn't confess it. I just said, like this to him. So the second time after hearing his story, then I said, yes, the Lord wants me to tell you that I'm afraid of white people and I feel inferior. And she said, it wasn't until you confessed with your mouth that I knew the reason why the Lord wanted me to stand here. So now here's the story. The story is getting better and better. This is God. This is my God, right? So she said, she began to tell us the story of her family. She said that generations, like maybe her uncles, her brothers, they would all get arrested. They would all be in prison. The women in her family, they would always get raped. Always. And it got to a point, it was so bad and it was happening to them. She said they began to pray and ask God, why is this happening to us? Why are all the men in prison? Why are the women getting raped and beaten and all these things? She said that the Lord told her about her family history. She said, the Lord said a long time ago, your family owned the plantation and they owned slaves. And this is how they treated them. And what you all are experiencing is what you've done to them. I was shocked. And he said, if you want this to be removed out of your bloodline and you're not experiencing this, you need to pray and ask me for forgiveness on behalf of your family, your ancestors. And then I'm going to have you ask Black people that I bring you to or bring to you. You're going to ask them for forgiveness on behalf of the white people who did these things to slaves. And then you're going to pray for them. I was shocked. And so what I learned from her and from the experience is God said to her that even when someone like me, I've never been through slavery, it's still affecting the bloodline of many Black people. And it manifests in different ways. And so the other thing was the reason why God wanted me to find him is because, of course, that's her leader. As I said, she's on his team. But on his team, when I first saw his team, I thought it was so peculiar. And the fact that, and this is why when you follow God and you obey him, things are coming together and you're seeing them later and you're amazed. If I was not connected to his sister, the CEO's daughter, I would have never been connected to him to see these things and have this experience. So God was orchestrating everything from the beginning. And if you're obedient to him, I'm telling you, your freedom is here. And so when I saw his team, everyone in his team was Black except for her. And God told her to join his team. She was the only white woman and he was the only white man. Everyone else was Black, all Black women. And I was like, wow, that's something. And he got along well with them, very well with them. He was fun. And I remember his sister telling me, I wish I could get some more Black people on my team, but my brother, I don't know, God just blesses him with that. And so I remember having these conversations. So God told her, I'm going to bring you amongst Black people. You're going to have to ask them for forgiveness on behalf of your ancestors and other white people back in the past. And then you're going to pray for them. And so I took a picture of what I had looked like before this encounter, not because I knew what was going to happen. I just, took a selfie of myself. And after that conversation, totally different person. It was like I was brighter. Something that I didn't see before was lifted off of me. And so she prayed. She asked me for forgiveness on behalf of white people who owned slaves. And then she prayed for me and prayed a blessing over me and prayed that God would give me freedom. And I would fear no more. And and after that encounter, I went back home. I noticed when I was at work, mind you, I said these people, as I was singing, I didn't say it maybe, but they loved me. So there was no reason for me to be afraid. They would come to me and they're like, Roserbie, I love hearing you sing. This is what your voice does for me. But I still felt this, and I'm hearing these praises and they're putting big amounts of tips in my jar and showing me appreciation, wanting to know when I'm singing because they'll show up, they'll bring other people to hear me, but I still felt this way. And I noticed that after the encounter, after what God did for me that day, I was looking at them straight in their eyes, speaking up, and there was no fear in me. And I no longer felt inferior. I felt like I am the daughter, my identity, I am the daughter of the Most High. That is who I am. What I do is sing, what I do is photography, what I do is ministry, but my identity, I am the daughter of the King of Kings. On equal level as anyone else, who considers themselves a daughter or a son of the Lord, no matter what color. And so I wanted to redo this video because I didn't want to post what I did before, because I think I was flabbergasted as to why God wanted me to record this. But it was an amazing experience. And as I was telling my mom about it last night, I was just crying. And she's like, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "I'm crying because I'm so grateful to God and how he is, what he considers and what he thinks about." The Bible talks about there's not a hair on your head that can fall without him knowing and without him allowing. And so here I am thinking I'm going to do this. And through this MLM business, God did so much amazing things in my life that brought me here. But to see all these things worked out to bring me to this one powerful encounter, to teach me something. And so I am grateful for freedom. I am grateful for the Lord. I am grateful to be his daughter. And there's so much I could say about this. One thing I'm going to say is something that the Lord told me after this happened, maybe years ago, and I wrote it down somewhere. At the time, I wrote it down in Facebook. And what I saw was, I saw Black people, or a movement or something was being said that Black people are awakening to who they are and everything. And the Lord told me, he showed me a vision, and he told me, yes, this is happening. But I saw some people angry as they were being awakened to the greatness that God made them. And then I saw some people who were not angry. And God showed me like a wave like a tsunami. And he showed me there was two types of people. And he said, this is a time where, Black people are being awakened. They were embracing the way they look, the full lips, the nose, the kinky hair. Like, this was happening. And he said, there's two things happening. He showed me a vision of a big tsunami wave. And I saw the angry people who were angry as they were being awakened. They were angry and they were being drowned. They were drowning from the movement of the water. And the movement of the water was people receiving revelation, where they're from, the goodness, embracing themselves. And then those were the ones who received it well and who went to God and how to, wasn't angry, how to use this new information, or how to use this revelation or this acceptance of self and become better. Those were the ones riding the wave. But the ones who were angry, the ones who started to speak hate and push hate, they were the ones drowning. And this was a spiritual thing. And he said, those who become angry, they will drown in hatred, and they will drown and not receive the benefit of awakening to know who you are, what I've instilled in you, and how resilient you are. Those who do receive the movement, the changes, the revelation in a good way, they will rise and be powerful people. And so that is what the Lord told me. That is how I'm going to move. And basically, it's just always constantly going to Holy Spirit and allowing him to comfort you. When you hear something shocking, the truth may shock you. The truth may hurt. But if you do the right thing, go before the Lord, go to God. How do I deal with this new information? How? Tell me how to be now. you will succeed in life. And so I just want to share that with you. I want to share this story. I wanted to re-record it. God is good and faithful. When he is working on a plan to set you free, he will set you free in an amazing way. And it'll be a testimony to his love, his goodness, and how he cares about every detail from the top of your head down to the soles of your feet. My name is Roserbie Theoc. Welcome to Dear Diaries, sharing heaven one experience at a time. Until next time. Bye. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Dear Diaries, Her Story. Today's journey through faith and life's challenges is just one of many we'll explore together. If you've been inspired or touched by the story shared here, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing this podcast with someone you might know who needs a reminder of God's presence in their life. Remember, every story has the power to inspire, and yours could be next. Keep walking in faith, and until next time, this is Roserbie Theoc reminding you to live your faith and share your story.